She has always been the woman Hollywood underestimated, until the cameras caught what the world had been missing all along. Elizabeth Banks, effortlessly bold, unapologetically radiant, and completely in command of her own image, has stepped into a spotlight brighter than ever, and these pictures prove it in the most unforgettable way. Before we dive into the full story, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Iconic Looks Daily for your daily dose of celebrity glamour, transformations, and unforgettable looks. There's something magnetic about Elizabeth Banks, a presence that seems to shift the air the moment she walks into frame. For years, she was the scene stealer, the comedic spark, the sharp wit Hollywood didn't quite know how to categorize. But that's the thing about Banks. She never waited for permission. She made her own lane, and eventually, the world followed. Her story begins far from red carpets and studio lights. Born in Massachusetts, she grew up grounded, ambitious, and bursting with an energy that could fill a room. She wasn't the kind of actress who stumbled into fame. She carved her path with grit. Long before she became the glamorous figure we see today, Elizabeth Banks was a force quietly building momentum, one performance, one bold choice at a time. Hollywood first noticed her charm in supporting roles, where she delivered comedic timing so sharp it practically sliced through the screen. Whether she was lighting up the 40-year-old virgin or stealing scenes in Role Models, Banks was that rare star who could make every line sparkle. But beneath those early roles was a growing confidence, a woman ready to show the world that she wasn't just funny. She was fierce, stylish, and capable of commanding any spotlight. And then came the transformation. As her career evolved, so did her style. Elizabeth Banks stepped onto red carpets with a kind of playful elegance, revealing just enough to turn heads, always staying tasteful, always in control. Her fashion choices weren't accidents, they were statements. And when the cameras flashed, they captured not just a look, but a woman who knew exactly who she was. There was the bold scarlet gown at Cannes, draped perfectly as if sculpted around her. Critics called it fearlessly sensual, fans called it iconic, and photographers knew instantly they were witnessing a moment. Elizabeth Banks didn't just arrive, she claimed the space. Then there was the unforgettable shimmering silver dress, the one that glowed under every spotlight and highlighted her figure with dramatic precision. It was the kind of look that shut down social media for hours, drawing praise for its daring cut and flawless fit. Banks didn't shy away from the attention. She owned it with a smile, proving once again that glamour was just another language she spoke fluently. But perhaps her most talked-about moment came during a high-fashion editorial shoot, where Elizabeth embraced an aesthetic that was both ethereal and boldly modern. The images radiated confidence, letting her beauty and charisma speak louder than any headline. It wasn't scandalous. It wasn't provocative for shock value. It was simply Elizabeth Banks stepping fully into her power, revealing the version of herself the industry had only glimpsed until then. And the reaction? Immediate, explosive, completely captivated. Fans praised her for showing a confident, unapologetic side that felt refreshing in an industry obsessed with perfection. Others admired her authenticity, her willingness to present herself not as Hollywood wished her to be, but as she truly was, stunning, fearless, utterly self-assured. What many forget is that Elizabeth Banks isn't just a star in front of the camera. She's a trailblazer behind it. She directed, produced, and created with the same boldness she wore on every red carpet. When she stepped behind the lens for Pitch Perfect 2, she proved she wasn't just a performer, she was a powerhouse. Her ability to merge creativity with vision made her one of the most commanding women in modern Hollywood. That duality, her sensuality and her strength, her humor and her elegance, is what makes these pictures so compelling. Because when Elizabeth Banks shows it all, she isn't bearing too much. She's revealing the depth of a woman who has mastered every chapter of her career. She's showing confidence, control, evolution, and artistry. And that's what makes her unforgettable. Look at her Met Gala appearances, each one a masterclass in how to turn fashion into storytelling. One year she arrives in metallic gold, styled like a modern goddess, radiating a glow that makes the cameras tremble. Another year, she steps out in a structured black ensemble, fierce and commanding, reminding everyone that fashion isn't just clothing, it's attitude. Elizabeth Banks has become the definition of a late-career glow-up, the kind Hollywood rarely celebrates but audiences adore. She's proof that confidence doesn't have an expiration date. Style doesn't fade. And glamour? When worn with authenticity, it only gets better. But the pictures making waves today hold something deeper. They show a woman liberated from expectation, standards, and Hollywood's impossible rules. A woman who has embraced maturity as a strength, not something to conceal. The subtle curves, the glowing skin, the quiet confidence in her gaze, none of it screams for attention. Instead, it commands it effortlessly. That's why the world keeps talking. Why fans continue to revisit every image, every angle, every detail. Not because they're shocked, but because they're inspired. Elizabeth Banks has given us more than memorable roles, more than award-caliber performances, more than red carpet perfection. She has given us a blueprint for personal evolution, how to transform, how to rise, and how to own every part of yourself with style, grace, and fearless glamour. These pictures aren't just proof of her beauty. They are proof of her power. And if there's one thing Elizabeth Banks reminds us with every photo, every premiere, every bold new reveal, it's that the spotlight doesn't define her.